This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
I'm Sharon Dovia. Welcome. Tonight we're taking your calls and questions all about injuries. If you've been in an auto accident, or maybe you've been the victim of the wrong medication given to you at the pharmacy, or a medical malpractice situation, tonight's the night to ask your questions. Call in the 31 Law Call number 256-536-0077. We'll also be taking your email questions. We've got some of those. You can send an email question anytime, any day of the week. You send it to lawcall@waaytv.com. And when we get to a show that's on point, we will pull some out. We'll have some of your email questions tonight. Getting us started tonight, Heath Brooks is here from Timberlake and Lee. Good to have you here.
Good to be here.
We're in a different set tonight,
Yes, we
but
are.
it's fun. Transition is
sure.
good. Change is always good.
We're excited.
You guys do personal injury cases
Right.
all the time. So when we're
That's
talking about auto accidents, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, all those things, you see it all the time.
See
right?
the worst of the worst.
And sometimes you tell us that you change some of the things you do. I bet whether you ride motorcycles or where you put your family members in nursing homes is largely based on what you see.
My wife claims that I drive like I'm 105 years old and I don't drive on the interstates.
When you see things, you learn and you change what you do. We always like to start off the show with you be the judge situation. You make the law call. We've got some video that we pulled from YouTube. And this one is a little bit different. Okay, so it's outside a club, something like that. It's spring break all across the country, and people are going to places that they're, what's happening here? Young lady trying to go in, and it looks like it's security. I don't think it's regular police, but she and her friend trying to go, Now, is that what security, and hold on, it's worse, it gets worse.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Is that what security is allowed to do at, now this is from somewhere around the country, this is not local, these are not local people. What are security officers allowed to do and not do? Are they just like police officers and what they can do?
No, they're not police officers. That's the thing, a bouncer, a security officer, those kinds of things, they are offered the same protection you and I may be offered if we're faced with somebody that's trying to attack us.
Just like regular citizens.
That's right. They can use self-defense.
Okay.
They can use reasonable force that is necessary to protect themselves, to protect property, to protect other folks. What they can't do is act unreasonably.
Okay.
Use more force than is necessary to deal with the situation. Most of the time it's a situation where somebody else has to take the first punch, and then they can respond accordingly. They can prevent people from coming into an establishment. What they can't do is act unreasonably. That video, I don't think there's any question.
Yeah.
Those guys were 6'4", dealing with folks that were 5'3" or 4.
Yeah.
Way too big to be throwing people around like that. That's not acceptable.
Okay, if you have something like that, do those ladies, and of course it's not in our area, it's not in Alabama, so laws are going to be a little different. Do they automatically have some kind of lawsuit that they can bring because of how that was handled, or do they have to have real injuries?
Well, one, you need an injury.
Okay.
I mean, if you're baking a cake and you're dealing with an injury claim, you got to have the sugar, you got to have the flour,
Okay.
you got to have the milk.
Okay.
So in order to be able to bring any kind of injury claim, you got to have an injury. But in that kind of situation, those two ladies were assaulted. So you've got a bunch of different elements there. One, you've got the civil assault. When we're talking about a civil case, we're talking about getting a monetary award for what somebody has done for you, to pay for your medical bills, to pay for your mental anguish, your pain and suffering. Maybe you lose some time from work. Those kinds of things are what you are trying to be awarded in a civil action. A criminal action, much different situation. Criminal assault, where somebody has done something unreasonably to you that is criminal in nature, and you bring an action, that's where you actually have to talk to the district attorney's office, file charges against that individual. So you got two different things going on there.
You're not getting any money from the criminal case, though. That's not the point.
Right. That's not really the point. You can get some restitution, but you're limited in your damages.
Okay. If you've got questions about some personal injury issue, call in the 31 Law Call number 256-536-0077. We got in this email question. Let me pull up one of our email questions tonight. We got this one from Laney, and Laney said, my 8-month-old son fractured his leg and wrist at the daycare, but the daycare people didn't inform us of that. He was in pain the whole night. We found out he had fractures the next day. The doctor says he couldn't have done it himself. The daycare denies that anything happened there. We've not been back, obviously, but they sent us an invoice saying we have to pay him for the last 2 weeks because we were supposed to give 2 weeks notice per the contract before canceling. Do we have to abide by the contract if we have reasonable cause to believe our child was injured there? And can we sue them for the doctor bills? What do you think?
Well, first off, let's unpack this.
Okay.
So you've got a contract issue here, and the contract says, hey, look, you come to our facility, you let us keep your child, you've got to abide by our rules. So technically speaking, they didn't give notice. Maybe they have a contract issue. However, you have a defense to say, hey, look, we couldn't abide by the contract because you're abusing our child. So you have a good reason to not follow the contract that perhaps this other facility is already broken.
And I'd be surprised if they sue you
Right,
over that under the
right.
circumstances.
And so then unpacking it the rest of the way, do you have a claim for damages? Well, as a minor, obviously, this toddler or young child can't sign a contract. So we as parents have to go forward and we have to bring the action on behalf of our child. And your child does have a lot of the same sorts of damages that you would have as if somebody had broken your arm. You've got the medical bills that the parents may be able to get back. You've got the pain and suffering of the child, the mental anguish of the child. So, and then this is all, is there going to be future mental anguish? Is there going to be future pain and suffering? Are these going to be issues that your child is going to be dealing with for the rest of their life? And so that's something that we would assess, make a determination, get medical experts to testify or to give us an opinion about what that future prognosis is going to be. The important thing is that you get your child out of that situation and you contact a lawyer about it.
Yeah. And is there a chance that the child will be appointed a guardian ad litem in a case like that, even when you take a settlement? Is it likely they're going to get some kind of special treatment?
It's actually required.
Okay.
So in the state of Alabama, anytime you have over a $5,000 settlement involving a minor, then the court will typically, and as a matter of law, appoint what's called a guardian ad litem. And that's a fancy legal term for somebody that is not the parents that can assist the judge in making sure that whatever settlement you've reached on behalf of the child is fair.
Okay, why is that? Why do judges need to do that? If the parents are out there and you would assume they're going to do what's best for the child, they're going to take a good deal, right?
Well, here's the deal. Not all parents are built the same.
Okay.
And believe it or not, sometimes parents want to take that money and they want to use it for themselves. Or maybe they want to use it for something for the child that they should be buying anyway. Like I've had a parents before ask, well, hey, can I buy my children braces with this money? And the judge will typically say, no, that's not something you do, because as a parent, you would be required to do that anyway. So the money that a child gets out of a settlement is really for the child and not for things that the child would get anyway.
Okay. What kinds of things could you get permission to spend it on? Or do you just have to wait until the child turns 19, state of Alabama majority?
Most of the time you have to wait till the child turns 19.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different ways that you can deal with any kind of money you get in a minor settlement. Oftentimes we will ask the judge if we can structure it in what's called an annuity, so that when the child does turn 19, there may be a little bit more money there than what they got. In other words, it would gain some interest. And you want to make sure, particularly if the child is young and there's a lot of money, that money just doesn't sit there, that it actually works for the minor. But things that sometimes the judge will allow the minor to do are maybe potentially a car, or to pay for college, education, things like that the parent may not be able to afford at that point in time. But you do have to petition the judge for that. It's not something that you will get as a matter of right.
Gotcha. Let's talk a little bit about, so many schools have been on spring break this past week and the week before that. A lot of people going out of town, going to other states even, going on trips. If something happens to you while you're in Florida or you're in Aruba, how does that change the lawsuit that you might bring? If it happens in Florida, do I have to sue down in Florida? Or how does that work?
Typically speaking, now there are some exceptions to this rule, but generally most of the states around us have a rule that wherever you are injured, that's where you've got to bring a potential action. And so that presents a problem if, we have somebody who comes up and lives in Huntsville and gets hurt while they're, down in Orlando, or maybe they're at the beach and they get hurt while they're getting lunch, or we actually have dealt with a case that occurred over in the Bahamas where somebody was injured during one of the excursions that you can sometimes go to when you're staying in a resort. And how do you handle that situation? So, you come and you talk to an Alabama lawyer and you say, hey, look, I got this case in Florida. And me sitting here as an Alabama lawyer, I'm like, well, I'm really sorry. I'd love to help you out, but I'm not licensed to practice law in the state of Florida. So, but I got some friends who are. So let me call some folks that I know down in Florida that would really work with you in your case, and maybe we can kind of work together on this case to get it taken care of for you. But if you have a case in Florida and you get injured in Florida, that's where you'll need to bring your action. Like if you get injured in Alabama and then you go back home to Florida, you'd have to bring your action in Alabama.
Probably is a good idea to talk to a lawyer that you know and trust here to find somebody there. Yeah. Let's take a break. We'll be right back answering more of your questions all about injuries tonight. Stay with us.
You're watching WAAY 31 Law Call, where lawyers come to help. Your rights, your calls, live. Hosted by family law attorney Sharon Dovia. With the personal injury attorneys of one of the Valley's most respected law firms, Timberlake and League. Featuring the knowledge of managing partner Michael Timberlake, with millions of dollars awarded to his clients. And the experience of attorney Will League, a strong courtroom fighter known for his commitment to winning. And the fellow partners of Timberlake and League Heath Brooks and William Meservey. This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Welcome back to 31 Law Call. I'm Sharon Dovia. Tonight we're taking your calls and questions all about injuries. So everything from auto accidents, maybe you got the wrong medication, maybe you got into a bar fight. We had that video at the top of the show. Or maybe product recalls. So we've got Heath Brooks here from Timberlake and League. They do these kind of cases all the time. And we were talking about a news story with another baby food formula recall. Okay, there's so many recalls. If I miss out on the recall and my child takes that baby formula and gets sick, do I have a case?
You know, you may. So whenever a company recalls something, that's because they have identified a problem, and oftentimes it's a risk analysis. The risk is that if I don't recall these thousands and thousands of products, then the potential for litigation that could come will far outstrip the cost it would take me to go ahead and issue a recall. That's a lot of you remember the old Pinto cases.
Yes, number crunching.
They would just crunch the numbers to determine whether or not you to issue a recall. But what ends up happening is when a recall is issued, each individual product has a way to track, a number to track the product. And so they can, one, get on the news and say, hey, look, we've issued a voluntary recall, or they can contact the stores, and the stores can pull all that material off the shelves. But the point is that after the recall has been issued, but you still give your child the baby formula and your child gets sick, well, you could still have a claim if you had no reason to know. Now, if you just said, hey, look, it's a recall, I'm not worried about it, here, baby, you can have this baby formula anyway, you're not going to have a claim. But you can have a claim even after they issue a recall if your child gets sick. It's just like if you take medication that was recalled, but you didn't get any notification of it, those kinds of things.
I would figure that if you bought it at a discount place after the recall and it's super cheap, or you think about car seats and baby beds and things that wind up at thrift stores, and there's maybe a reason for that. I don't know that you would be able to bring something if you bought it secondhand.
Potentially you could. I mean, potentially you could. One of the things that happens in a recall, or oftentimes with a class action lawsuit, which sometimes is the cause of a recall. Oftentimes when you get a class action lawsuit, you'll get these notices in the mail that'll say, you're part of a class and you have X amount of time to contact this number to let us know what you want to do. And what that's called is opting out. And if you don't opt out of that class, where a product has caused injury to a whole bunch of folks, or there's been a problem with a whole bunch of different vehicles or whatever, if you don't opt out, you'll be stuck in that class and stuck on any settlement or judgment that's received for the class.
Gotcha. Okay, we've got Suzanne on the line with a question from Crossville. Hi, Suzanne. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight?
I was injured at work.
Okay.
I work in a county jail and was stabbed by an inmate.
Oh, my goodness.
Golly.
However, I've got all of that taken care of. My question is pertaining to the negligence of my employers.
Okay.
Such as I told them 3 separate times prior to this ever happening that my radio had died.
Okay.
They did nothing to get me a radio so that I could call out for help.
How
You know,
how far going back had you been complaining about the radio, Suzanne?
it started at 7:30 in the morning. I was stabbed at 10:45.
Wow,
Oh,
okay.
I see.
Okay. Keep going. I
Yeah.
interrupted you.
And then the closed circuit monitors that view into the area of the jail that I was in
Yeah.
were turned off. Not tore up, not broken. Turned off.
Okay.
Okay. She's entitled to some protections, and especially things like this that she's told him about.
You know, it's really bad. But in the state of Alabama several years ago, and I'm talking back in the 40s, we passed the workers' compensation statute. And if you get injured on the job, you're going to be limited to the workers' compensation statute in the state of Alabama. In other words, you're not going to be able to claim that your employer was negligent if you get injured while you're on the job. There are very, very, very limited circumstances that likely won't apply in your situation, but you're going to be limited to 66 2/3% of your average weekly wage for a number of weeks. You'll be limited to, if you are permanently disabled, that a calculation for your permanent disability, a lump sum payment, or if you're temporarily disabled, you get your wages for the time period when you are suffering from the disability. So you're stuck within the confines of this arcane workers' compensation statute, whose numbers are based on late 1970s financial figures. So it's bad. It really is.
Sometimes things that you deal with the government, they're treated differently. But this kind of thing, you figure, is probably going to be treated the same old way.
Same way. I mean,
Suzanne, that's not fair.
There is a different avenue when you're dealing with a governmental workers' compensation claim.
But still bad.
But it's still bad.
Okay. Suzanne, we're glad that you're okay. Glad that you're okay and back to yourself. Brendan from Huntsville. Hi, Brendan. Thanks for calling in. What's your question tonight? Hey,
Hi.
Yeah.
I was injured in an accident that was clearly the other driver's fault.
Okay.
And I've tried contacting their insurance company, and they haven't returned my calls in 6 months. What do I do?
6 months. Okay. Warn him about the time frames that he's got to do things.
You got 1 year in Tennessee and 2 years here in the state of Alabama. So time evidence is like water; it evaporates. So you got 6 months from your car wreck. You need to be gathering the information, who were your witnesses, photos of your vehicle, all those kinds of things. But now that you're 6 months down the line and you're not getting any playback from the insurance company, it's probably a good idea to contact an attorney so that they can contact the insurance company for you. A lot of times, the reason why they're not wanting to contact you is maybe they're relying upon you just going away and not worrying about it and getting your car fixed on your own. And if they don't have to pay out a claim and continue to take in a premium, well, that's going to serve an insurance company just fine. So my advice to you is, if there is 6 months since you have even heard from the insurance carrier, contact a lawyer, because you're already behind the 8 ball. It's something you need to move pretty quick on.
Yeah, that's a strategy for them, right? If they can get you to go away, they win. So don't let them.
They're not in the business of paying claims. They're in the business of making money. Okay. So, that's what you need to do.
Good luck with it, Brendan. Let's talk a little bit about, you were talking about the statute of limitations. Okay, with him you were saying Tennessee 1 year,
right?
Alabama 2 years. To do what? What's the deadline to do?
Well, either you got to file your lawsuit in the court that you should file it in, meaning the county where the incident happened or the county where the defendant resides.
Okay.
Or if you can get your case settled before that 2 years mark. But once you get to that 2 year mark in Alabama, or once you get to that 1 year mark in Tennessee, with some very, very, very limited exceptions, your case is over.
Can't even bring it back.
Nope.
Let's talk a little bit about slip and fall cases. You've had some, we think of slip and fall. How bad can it be? It's just a little slip and a fall.
It is awful.
Some of the cases you guys have can be very serious. So don't think for a minute that if something has happened to you that a lawyer's not going to take you seriously about your injuries.
I like to say, as I get older, the ground gets harder.
Yeah.
And it moves a lot faster. When you slip and you fall, the ground is there.
Boom.
And it takes you a second and I've seen this multiple times handling these cases, it takes you a second to realize what has happened. Mm-hmm. Hey, look, I've just fallen, the ground just seemed to come up and bite me, and you're embarrassed, and you don't know what to do, and you get up and you try to dust yourself off. Hey, I'm okay. you know, you think you're going to be all right, but what ends up happening is you're not all right because the ground is really, really hard and is really, can cause some very, very serious injuries to you in the form of broken bones, in the form of you can have all kinds of concussions, and a lot of times it's delayed. In other words, it doesn't come on for a minute. So, you know, it's something that can have devastating effects. And a lot of times the way that we have to be able to prove these cases is through the video of the store where you fell. So when you fall, what you need to do is you need to tell somebody at the store that you suffered a fall. And so they can write a report. And then you immediately need to contact a lawyer, particularly if you have a bad injury, because we have ways we can secure the information.
And most of them do not hold on to that video for very long, right? That's
Nope.
why you're saying be sure that you handle it really quickly.
30 days.
30 days
Yep,
before
30
it'll probably be
days.
taped over.
That's right.
Taped may be old-fashioned.
That's right.
Video recorded over. We've got Michelle on the line with a question from Muscle Shoals. Hi, Michelle. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight?
Hi. I moved here and I bought a home back in December of 2021. And I got sick a couple months after I purchased my home, and I went to the doctor, and they did all these tests on me and whatnot. Well, then I had 3 companies come out, and they checked under my crawl space, and my home has mold and fungus under it, and which has came up into the home. But I'm still fairly new, and I know that Alabama laws are very different.
Yeah. Mold and fungus in a house. What can you do?
Well, you know, one is if you're a homeowner, oftentimes you got to look at your homeowner's insurance policy
Okay.
to see does your homeowner's insurance policy even cover you for mold? Because a lot of times that's excluded in the policy, or the homeowner's insurance policy they may allow a remediation of the mold, but they won't give you any of your damages, the medical bills and things like that you incur. If you're renting, then that's a whole different ballgame. You may have the right to get out of a rental contract with your actual landlord, but you got to give them an opportunity to cure that issue.
Okay. We're going to take a break. Be right back answering more of your questions all about injuries tonight. Stay with us. If you didn't get your questions answered tonight, here's how to get in touch with Heath Brooks with Timberlake and League in Huntsville. They are personal injury attorneys, so everything from car accidents to medical malpractice and recalls. 256-536-0770 or 800-804-2502. The website is law-injury.com. And if you like them on Facebook, you can learn more about the law that way. And I practice family law, divorce, child custody, 256-539-7337. Also check out SharonFamilyLaw.com. In our last seconds, all these people, you're telling them, hurry up and go see a lawyer. What if they can't afford a lawyer?
You know, any lawyer who does my kind of work, we work on a contingency basis,
Okay.
and that's a fancy term for we don't get paid unless we get you money for your claim. So we take a percentage of what we collect. We pay all of the expenses associated, medical depositions, costs of getting your medical records, costs of filing lawsuits, costs of getting experts, you know, and we eat that cost if we lose.
Consultation too? Free.
Yep, free consultation. You don't owe us a thing unless we get something for you.
Thanks for your questions tonight. Everybody stay safe. See you next week.
Thank y'all.